You are listening to Grab Them by the Pod, a member of the ACE Podcast Network. Welcome to Grab Them by the Pod, a Trump political podcast. We are brand new. No, we're not new. We've just been away for a while. Jesse, what's been going on in our absence, bud?
So much has been going on. Whenever we go away, that's when the crazy stuff starts to pop off. So we got a couple of things we want to talk about that happened last week or so. We're recording this right now. It's almost 12 o'clock on Friday night, and President Trump is going on a tweet storm. Of course, he's just retweeting things, so nothing really to report other than that he's, president of the free world, and he's laying in bed probably just getting very angry at people and whatever.
He's wearing the robe, not wearing the robe. What do you think?
I don't know what he's wearing, but I know Melania isn't in bed with him. She's probably in another room somewhere else. So while we were gone, one of the craziest stories, and it's a fun story, was CNN's Chris Cuomo obtained a tape that Michael Cohen recorded of then candidate Trump. He wasn't quite president yet. That's when we still had some hope about the future. And on the tape, Trump is heard discussing about how he would buy the rights to a Playboy model, Karen McDougal's story, about an alleged affair that she had with Trump. But rather than us trying to repeat what was said, let's just listen to it right now.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David. So that I'm going to do that right away. I've actually come up and I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with funding. Yes, and it's all the stuff because you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be. Correct. So I'm all over that, and I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
What financing?
We'll have to pay you. So no. I got no.
Well, that's not good for Trump. I mean, I just wish we had left in the part where he was screaming, "Someone get me a Coke."
Now, was he asking for a Coke or some Coke? I know he's been known to enjoy both.
Are you saying that the president of the United States has done drugs at some time in his life? No.
Listen, all I know is that he was in New York City in the 1980s. He calls that his Vietnam. So
it was tough. Life is tough in New York City for a rich man. So this shows that Trump was aware of paying off people or buying their stories, doing something that could help him. And when we hear Cohen telling Trump about plans to set up a shell company to finance the purchase of the story for the National Enquirer, it's interesting to look at it from a non-legal sense. They're putting together a fake company. They're paying somebody off, and they're just acting like it's another day in the office. Like, no big deal. I mean, call me crazy, but I don't think this is the first time that they've done something like this.
No, that's pretty much the way businessman Trump has conducted himself over the last 40 years.
It was fun when he was just, that kind of foolish guy in movies and in commercials and stuff, but now he's the president. Trump wanted to pay with cash, and Cohen clearly was not crazy about it. Oh, no, you can't do that. But this all brings us back to the issue of campaign finance violations by the Trump campaign. Trump's people basically performed a catch and kill, and that basically means they bought the rights to a story so they could kill it and make it go away. But if you're spending money to help a campaign, then it's a contribution to the campaign. If it's a contribution to the campaign, then legally it must be obtained to the FEC. I spent many days in the lobby of the FEC dropping off filings myself. This obviously wasn't reported to the FEC, and it's the kind of thing that can get them in big trouble.
Well, and we know how that works, in-kind donations to campaigns and the like. It's like when you had a sweatshirt made for your campaign last year. You had to report that, right?
I did. Every little bit, it gets reported in to make sure that we're following the law. And if we can do it at this local level, someone running for president should be able to hire enough people to take care of themselves. I mean, I used to work at a law firm where we had a dedicated department of people who would do all of these filings. These were for congressmen. These are from large universities and stuff. So it's not like it can't be done. It's just that he didn't care, or more likely, he just didn't want people to know that this money was changing hands at all.
Seems more likely that that's the case.
And then it brings us back to the whole Stormy Daniels thing, that if he was doing this for McDougal, then he's probably doing it for Stormy Daniels. He's probably doing it for other people. This is, it's not like this was happening in the 80s. This was happening right before the election. So when this all came out, Trump obviously wasn't very happy. He started tweeting out saying, "What kind of a lawyer would tape a client? So sad. Is this a first? Never heard of it before. Why was the tape so abruptly terminated, cut, when I was presumably saying positive things? I hear there are other clients and many reporters that were taped. Can this be so? Too bad. Well, when I hear that, the first thing I think of is if he never heard of it before, how has he heard that other people and other clients are taped? It makes no sense.
Well, that's a good point. And perhaps, what kind of lawyer does this? One that, knows that his client is a pathological liar. And more importantly, I think it gets at something else. If you look in between the lines here of this tweet, he's so abruptly terminated and then in parentheses cut, as if his followers wouldn't know what the word terminated means, that he had to spell it out in layman's terms, cut. And again, that's who he's playing to. People who might not know what the word terminated. That is too big for their vocabulary. He claims to like ignorant people.
What does Arnold Schwarzenegger have to do with the paying of these Playboy models? That's probably what they're thinking. I was just watching before we recorded this, the newest episode of the Bill Maher show, and he was saying, people keep telling him it doesn't help things to call the opposition stupid, but when they believe some of the things they believe, like, what are you supposed to do? It is tough. And remember, Trump just like a year ago insinuated that he maybe had recorded Comey when they were in their meetings. So he had no problem with at least insinuating that recording people was okay when it was going to benefit him. But when it goes against him, of course, then he's furious and very upset about it.
Yeah, wouldn't you be upset if somebody recorded you without your knowledge?
I probably would. I mean, every time I talk to you on the phone, what do you think happens? I have a whole database put together of it.
But it's not illegal. Not in New York, anyway. And
not in Connecticut either, by the way. I'm pretty sure I checked on that. I was reading an article from the American Bar Association, on whether it's legal or not. I mean, like you just said, in New York, it's not illegal. It's a one-party consent state, so as long as one person is being recorded and knows they're being recorded, in this case, Michael Cohen, it's all good. But the question was, is this ethical? And the legal scholars seem divided. The ABA Standing Committee on Ethics and Professional Responsibility concluded in 1974 that an ethical ban on dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation generally prevented lawyers from recording conversations without the other person knowing it. But in 2001, the committee withdrew that opinion and stated a new opinion that lawyers who record conversations without the knowledge of parties don't necessarily violate the ABA model rules of professional conduct. But, they were unanimous in saying that it's probably advisable for a lawyer to inform a client this is happening. So, saying it's not unethical, but it's probably they wouldn't approve of it. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a large difference between illegal and unethical. And that, again, is something that the Trump team could take a lesson from. Collusion, perhaps. We'll talk about that later. But just because something isn't illegal or even unethical doesn't mean that it's best practice. And certainly, I don't know how I feel about, one person knowing that they're being recorded and so they can record it. Well, they're having a conversation with somebody else. Shouldn't that person have a right to know?
Yeah, and I'm with you. If you ask me just generally speaking, am I in favor of it? I would say no. But when you're dealing with someone like Donald Trump who lies more often than not, definitely more than the average person, I can understand why Michael Cohen would want to do it. I mean, Michael Cohen isn't a hero for doing this. I mean, it's making us very happy that we're seeing some of the things that Trump was doing that we think is unethical and possibly illegal. But it's not like Michael Cohen's a great guy. It's just it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that circumstances have brought us together, not us personally, but us and our viewpoint together with Michael Cohen at this point. So he may be untrustworthy, but President Trump is far more untrustworthy.
Yes, and it sure makes for, a good listen.
It does, and supposedly there are 11 other tapes or so out there, so I'd be really interested to see what comes out of these. Well, time will tell.
They're more exciting than sex tapes, folks.
Well, I wouldn't go crazy. Well, we've talked about this, that if the P-tape was real, and I'm not saying it is, who knows, but if it was real and it was released, would we watch it? And I think I would have to watch. I mean, I would. It can never be unseen once you see those things, but I don't see how I don't watch it. Would you watch it?
Jury's out here, but I definitely see you popping it in the I was going to say the VCR, but we don't have those anymore. I could see you downloading that off the internet and watching it on your computer.
I've been watching a lot of the new Sacha Baron Cohen show, Who is America. They're talking, they talk like Dick Cheney, they talk to Roy Moore, a bunch of people. And I watch a lot of that show with like my hands over my face, like looking through my fingers, because it's just so awkward. And I kind of imagine that if the P-tape was real and it came out, I'd have to watch it through my hand. Like I'd be trying to stop myself, but I just couldn't prevent myself from watching it. But well, that doesn't matter right now. If it ever comes out, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So, but some newer developments that are just as crazy. Earlier this week, Trump had called for Attorney General Jeff Sessions to stop the Russian investigation, which is a ramp up of the attacks of what he's been saying in the past. He tweeted out, Attorney General Jeff Sessions should stop the rigged witch hunt right now before it continues to strain our country any further. Bob Mueller is totally conflicted, and his 17 angry Democrats, up for 13, by the way, that are doing his dirty work are a disgrace to the USA. Huh. What do you think?
This means one thing, that Mueller must be getting somewhere.
Yeah. It's one of the things we've talked about this on the show. I don't think you've had a chance to ever watch it, but our cartoon president on Showtime. One of the things in the last episode they had, like, Bob Mueller is like too cool for school because he's he doesn't tip his hand at all, and all the Trump cabinets are attracted to him more so than President Trump, and President Trump was getting very upset. But if you look at Bob Mueller, he's not falling for any of these attacks that Trump has said. I mean, Trump's trying to goad him into showing his hand, and he's just ignoring it. And that's really what you have to do when you're in the case of Bob Mueller. I mean, his job is not to fight back on Twitter. His job is to find the truth. And it may be that he doesn't find anything, and that we're all very upset about it. Or more likely, it may be that he does find something, and that's why he's just keeping his cards close to his vest right now, and he'll pop them out when the time is right.
So, in other words, many of us would appreciate having Bob Mueller as president than Donald Trump.
Hey, everybody says Bob Mueller is an honorable man, except for President Trump. The opposite, he did go to war. He's worked for other presidents. I haven't seen anything that would indicate that he's not working for America versus themselves or other countries that I won't name right now. I'm sure you can all figure out what I'm talking about. The interesting thing here is that Trump is taking his anger out on Sessions. I mean, this isn't the first time he's done this. He's done this a lot in the past. But Sessions recused himself for the Russian issue. So Trump really should be yelling at Rod Rosenstein, or he's yelling at Jeff Sessions to fire Rod Rosenstein so they put somebody in his spot so then he can end the Mueller investigation.
Oh, but what if there's something to it?
It might be. I mean, they have to call it a witch hunt when it hasn't been concluded. These things go on for a long, long time. Look at the Whitewater. Look at the Nixon case. They act like, it's been going on for almost a year. It's time for this to end. No, it's not time for it to stand. So this all upset even some Republicans on Capitol Hill. Senator Cory Gardner said the investigation will continue. Susan Collins from Maine said, I think it's highly inappropriate and intemperate. I would rather be far better. It would be far better if the president just refrained from commenting and Mr. Mueller proceeds with his investigations, which after all has already resulted in more than 30 indictments and has led to a trial that is ongoing even as we speak. My problem with that is she could do something about Trump if she wanted to. I mean, she's a Republican, but she's really a liberal Republican in a swing vote, but she's going to talk and then do whatever.
Well, she helped out with the Affordable Care Act, so maybe, give her some time. Maybe she'll come around.
I'll give her credit where credit's due. Okay, I don't want to be a jerk. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, keeps making excuses for Trump, saying that wasn't an order. It was just the president's opinion. The president's not obstructing; he's fighting back. And a reporter asked, "Do you know, Sarah, when the president gives you an order and when it's an opinion?" And she really couldn't give a good answer. I mean, she came back with the same nonsense she always does. But it's true. If something comes out of the president's mouth or the president's Twitter, you assume it's the words of the president, unless said otherwise. But we have to just guess whenever he says anything, whether it's real or not, or whether he even said what he meant to say.
The president has been very clear.
Except for when he hasn't been, or when he misspoke. I meant to say wasn't, not was.
A good smocking.
Smocking. He was just going crazy this couple of mornings ago. He said smocking gun instead of smoking. He said that Paul Manafort, and compared him to Al Capone, but I'm like, a normal human being. Called him Alphonse Capone because whenever I'm talking to someone about Al Capone, I'm like, yeah, Alphonse Capone. And then he ended up spelling Alphonse incorrectly. It's pure Trump. Pure Trump.
Twitter.
Twitter. I don't know how I'd live without Twitter, but man, I was just talking today to somebody, our mutual chiropractor I was talking to today, about how I remember when I would get upset with other politicians of all parties using Twitter incorrectly. And there was a time where the president's, Obama's, Twitter account said "Go Bulls" or something. And I'm like, I don't think that's appropriate for the president to be tweeting about the Bulls. Does he have more important things to deal with? Now, oh my God, that was nothing looking back at it now. The world has changed in
tweeting about years. The Bulls wearing a tan suit, man.
Oh, what a scumbag he was.
Scandalous.
No, he's part of the deep state. We'll talk about that a little more, a little bit too. It trumps back to the I barely knew Paul Manafort thing, which is such nonsense. He worked for Reagan. He worked for dude. He after he left his campaign, he was still talking to Trump. It's just nonsense the way that he tries to incept people. I mean, maybe it's not nonsense because it works. We said the people, they believe what he says. We'll talk about his Tampa Bay rally in a little bit, and people there said, I listen and believe whatever Trump says because if he says it, it's the truth.
Sad but true. This is the state of it. This is America.
This is
I feel like Donald Glover here, a little childish Gambino. This is America.
Oh God! I mean, maybe I think I do have Trump derangement syndrome. The right has to push that. But maybe they're right. Maybe I do because I just can't focus sometimes. But just the insanity that goes on. I mean, a lot of people I think are just becoming complacent in what they hear and what they see. But as we've said repeatedly, including in our Politico article from 6-7 months ago, is that you can't become complacent. You have to keep repeating yourself, even if it gets old, because the second you become complacent is the second that it becomes normal, and it's the second that he gets away with even more stuff next time.
Absolutely. This is not normal. We'll say it time and time again, but it's not normal. That's why we do this podcast.
And I was watching an interview with Wolf Blitzer and Congressman Steve Cohen earlier in the week, and he said the things. I mean, he's a congressman, so take it for what it's worth. He's a Democrat too, by the way. But he said there's a good chance that Don Jr. and Jared Kushner are going to be indicted, and if that were to happen, then Trump can just pardon them, and then that's where things go off the rails big time if that ever happens.
Yeah. By the way, did you catch the picture of Robert Mueller and Don Jr. waiting for the same plane last week?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, how awkward.
Yeah, our friends at Politico reported it and shared the photo on July 27th. And according to the Washington Post, they were both waiting at gate 35X down at DCA Reagan Airport, which is the worst gate at the airport because you wait in a low-ceiling, dimly lit holding pen, they call it. Then you have to take a shuttle bus out to the actual tarmac to get on your plane.
Well,
so this is like the worst one in the entire airport. And these two, like mega people in this whole investigation are both sitting there seemingly unbeknownst to each other.
It's like when you see someone you got in a fight with and you just pretend, I look the other way the entire time. They knew what was going on. I mean, I want to give credit to the guy or girl who took the picture because, Robert Mueller's one of those guys that if I see him in the right context, I'm like, yeah, it's Robert Mueller. But I was just walking down the street in D.C. and saw him. I don't think I'd necessarily go, oh my God, it's Robert Mueller right now if I wasn't thinking about it. I mean, we used to have a professor in college who said you should just look at every old man walking down the street because it might be Alan Greenspan. This is back in the early 2000s. So you never know who you might see walking down the street. I mean, I saw just the Body Ventura walking down L Street, when I was there. So,
but in case you were wondering, and in case you were concerned, Gate 35X will finally be put out of service by a renovation project that's scheduled to be completed in 2021. So, Jesse, if you ever fly into DC again, you happen into that airport, by 2021 you won't have to sit in that cow pen of a Gate 35X.
Well, it's a nice $59 each way flight on JetBlue from Connecticut, from Hartford down to DCA. I can't beat that price. Once in the morning, once at night. I actually once flew up to Connecticut for a job interview, did the job interview, and then flew back. So it's what you do. So Rudy Giuliani continues to slow descent into madness with all these interviews he's putting out. It's crazy. This dude was America's mayor, and then he was Times Man of the Year, and then I think I voted for him in the primary in 2008. What happened to poor Rudy?
I don't know if it's just senility, the age is setting in, or he drank the crazy juice.
I mean, it's if it turns out he had, and we don't know anything, but if he has like dementia, I'll feel bad making fun of him. But will I though? Actually, no. I think he's the way things he's doing to the country, the lies he's putting out there. I mean, I don't know. It's some. I'm speechless, and I talk a lot. I never shut up, and for me to be speechless when it comes to talking about somebody, they've got to be really going off the rails for me to get to that point.
Yeah, the only other logical option would be that his 15 minutes of fame dried up a good 15 years ago, and he's drawing at straws, trying to get anything back in the limelight, and even if that means he's got to act crazy to do it, then he's doing it.
So his newest talking point is that collusion isn't a crime. He said, I've been sitting here looking at the federal code trying to define collusion as a crime. Collusion isn't a crime. And so now it's like, oh, he didn't collude, but if he did, it's not illegal. And soon it'll be, well, he did collude, but it's not illegal. And is anybody going to buy that? I mean, it's not directly collusion is what they would charge him with, but look what's going on with all the Russians that have already been indicted. Obviously, these things can be handled in a legal manner, and they may be just that if things work out the way we hope they do.
Well, as you said before, Jesse, they seek to normalize this type of malevolent behavior. And once, the sheep have all accepted this, they will follow it and not care that it happened by that point, and they can get away with it. That's what they are banking on, but we can't let that happen.
And by the way, Kevin, I want to apologize to our listeners. I just said, if things work out the way I hope they do, or we hope they do. And, one of the things when I started this podcast, I'm like, okay, I want to be a little more even-handed. That wasn't very even-handed at all. My own personal views go into that. And I know, obviously, we put our personal views in this all the time, but I just thought that was a little too much, so I apologize to any conservatives who may be listening. I don't want to be angering you guys at all.
Bottom line, we hope that justice is carried out for the sake of this country, for the American people. We want a just and fair system. And if it turns out that the president, illegally sought to collude and conspire with another country to better his chances of getting elected, and then he did, then that needs to be dealt with. And we just want, fair and just practice in the United States.
Yeah, I'm for anybody who does illegal things, especially when the politicians, whether conservative, liberal, anarchists, socialists, whatever. If you're doing it, you're elected, and you're doing it, it's bad, get out of there. Let the law handle with it, because I can't believe I'm saying this after working in D.C. for a decade, but there's no place in government and politics for corruption. Sorry. And this is also kind of weird, too, that Giuliani is talking about, well, you didn't, collusion's not illegal. That no one really has charged him with that yet. It's kind of like going out and coming back in without your wife asking where you were, saying, I wasn't having an affair. You don't need to confess your crimes before you've actually been accused of them, by the people that count, at least.
Well,
I mean,
somebody ought to tell the president that.
Yeah. And Giuliani says, well, hacking's the crime. The president didn't hack. But remember, during the debates, he thought maybe Barron or a 400-pound naked guy in the basement. Those are his two options for who was doing the hacking. Whoever did listen to him, though, when he asked them to start hacking the DNC. So maybe Barron's better at the computer than we thought, or maybe that 400-pound naked dude is, pretty efficient. The other thing Giuliani has been doing is referencing top Trump officials meeting at Trump Tower to plan for the infamous Trump Tower meeting. And then 4 hours later, denied that conversation or anything that ever took place. I can't tell. We've been saying what's wrong with Rudy. Do you think this is controlled chaos? Is he just saying crazy crap to confuse people, or is he just incompetent?
To give him the benefit of the doubt, I would say that it's the controlled chaos, right? This is part of their plan, their modus operandi here. It's let's confuse the hell out of people so that we can sneak things in under the rug. And they've seemed to have operated this way throughout the Trump administration. That would make sense. And like I said, giving Giuliani the benefit of the doubt that he's not completely off his rocker.
I think in the spirit of the president and Alphonse Capone, we should just start referring to Giuliani as Rudolph Giuliani from now on. Oh, yes, what's wrong with Rudolph? I don't know.
Run, Rudolph.
One of the craziest things we saw in the last week was Trump's rally in Tampa. Honestly, I just found it to be very sad. By the way, Kevin, do you know you need an ID to buy groceries?
I did not know that.
And of course, when Trump said groceries, he really meant beer, because whenever I say, hey, honey, I'm going to go out and buy some beer, I go, I'm going to go get some groceries, and I come back with a six-pack or a bottle of vodka. Just say you made a mistake and move on. Who cares? But before this whole Trump speech, large numbers of the audience really harassed CNN reporter Jim Acosta. Of course, Trump always calls them out and calls them fake news and hates them. And Jim Acosta was trying to cover the rally. And when you're crowding somebody who you disagree with, you're acting, I don't know, violent, but you're definitely coming off in a violent manner and screaming, you've seen it. So I can imagine that could be a little scary for someone like Jim Acosta.
Yeah, and all the while, these people know that the president is willing to pay their legal fees should they act on their feelings.
Oh, yeah, he's actually said that. So Jim Acosta then tweeted out, it's a sample of what a sad scene we faced at the Trump rally in Tampa. I'm very worried about the hostility whipped up by Trump and some in conservative media will result in somebody getting hurt. We should not treat our fellow Americans this way. The press is not the enemy. But the problem is, by the way, that Trump has told them the press is the enemy of the people. So if Jim Acosta says the press is the enemy, it doesn't matter, because the president is telling his minions, no, let's disregard. Don't pay attention to the guy behind the curtain. Listen to me, and they're the enemy, and they're going to listen to him.
Right, and he regularly lies and tells these half-truths, but he gets his supporters to believe him. They eat out of the palm of his hand. And they believe that things like CNN and Washington Post and New York Times are spreading propaganda and fake news. This again reiterates the importance of teaching our youth critical thinking skills and being able to judge and place value on certain news media over others, and be able to tell what is real, what is credible, what is not.
I believe you meant the Amazon Washington Post. All one word, as the president calls it.
You're right. How could I forget?
I'll give Jim Acosta credit. I mean, he does go out of his way to not give in to the Trump administration. So I can understand why Trump supporters don't like him. But he engaged with the people who were yelling at him when he wasn't reporting. He was civil. He was respectful. But of course, Eric Trump tweeted out a video of the mob yelling at him, and Trump retweeted it this morning. So by Trump retweeting it, I think that's just him agreeing with it, or at least endorsing it without actually endorsing the verbal assault, at least, on members of the media that you disagree with. And of course, when this was brought up at the Sarah Huckabee Sanders' press briefing, Jim Acosta wanted her to say that the press was not the enemy of the people. She refused to say it. She started talking about how people say mean things to her, and they yell at her and call her a traitor and stuff. And it's interesting for her to be complaining about that when her boss does all of that and does it much more often than anybody in the media does. So, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
They write it off, and they say it's free speech, that people can act this way. But, violent speech, again, hateful speech is protected. Violence is not. So the more that the president whips up, as Jim Acosta said, this kind of negative animosity towards the media, eventually somebody is going to act on it. You're going to see, you can mark my words, in the sad state of the world that we live in, that there will be a violent act probably taken out against a journalist. And we'll have no one to blame for it but ourselves, of allowing ourselves to be whipped up into this frenzy and to believe the enemy is the media. And they truly are not. They're trying to do their job to report, to keep and hold accountable our elected leaders.
And if something crazy does happen, we saw what happened with Pizzagate, back a year or two. I don't remember what it was at this point, but there's so much been going on in the news. It all just comes together. But it's getting even crazier out there with this group called QAnon. There was a good amount of them at the rally. If you were watching the Trump rally, there were a lot of signs that said Q, people wearing shirts that say, I'm Q, or I'm with Q, or QAnon, blah, blah, blah. And QAnon, these are the lunatics that the lunatics call crazy. They think there's like some global conspiracy where the world's elite are trying to murder Trump. They think that the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas, all of these people are together, working as one to take down President Trump is the guy fighting them off. They think Robert Mueller really is investigating the Trump campaign, that he's really on Trump's side, and that they're secretly investigating Hillary. I saw CNN. There's a clip out there. I think it was on the Anderson Cooper show, they interviewed a few people who were waiting in line, and these people think all the media are members of the deep state and are being used by the CIA, and if they don't know what it said, they asked them, "Do you have any proof for that?" And the person responded, "Well, I don't have any not proof of it." And I'm like, wait, you can't provide not proof. I mean, first of all, not proof isn't even the correct way to say that. It's just really scary because these are the fringe people that can go crazy and do something really, really insane, like shooting up a pizza parlor because you think there's some pedophile ring in the basement.
Yeah, these folks are so far out there that they believe things that Trump says, and that's why they vote for him. And this is why he says he loves ignorant people, for that very reason. The whole comes back to the quote about, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. Sadly, there are people out there that do feel this way and that believe and buy into this stuff. And critical thought, so important.
I mean, just think back 10 years ago when at one of the McCain rallies or one of the Q&As, they were like, "Oh, Obama's a Muslim and wasn't born in America." And McCain's like, "No, that's not true. No, he was running for president, but he also was going to kind of kick down some of these stupid conspiracy theories." Fast forward to today, Trump would be like, maybe he is. I'm just asking the question. Maybe he is, foreign. Obviously, he was behind the whole birther thing. But the fact that we have the head of a political party now that not only refuses to denounce these things, but really actively encourages these kind of conspiracy theories, it's just really dangerous.
Because he is no better than them. As you said, he was the propagator of the birther movement. He is no better than them. He believes and buys into that. I mean, the National Enquirer was his source of news. He believes this stuff, and so he has no problem spreading it.
And, are you talking about Trump and the news or the women that he pays off? I was confused when he said spreading it. Inappropriate, sorry.
Spreading something.
Sorry. Last thing I want to talk about here is our old talking point with North Korea. New intelligence shows that North Korea is continuing to produce missiles that could actively hit the United States. I tell you, I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked this is going on. I thought for sure it was done. That's what the president told us.
Surprise, surprise. We can all sleep easier tonight, folks.
Republicans on the Hill are saying to Trump, Kim Jong-un can't be trusted. Well, duh. Senator Dan Sullivan said, "I think it's troubling, and I think it goes to the issue that in these negotiations, we have to have our eyes wide open. These guys cheated on every single agreement, either Kim Jong-un or his dad or his grandfather." Yeah, that's what we've all been saying for the past 6 months or so, but no one wants to listen to it. They just want to sing Kumbaya and say Trump is the best president ever.
Yeah, how many despots have you known in your time to have been honest?
Well, they're honest in that they're honest liars, if that even makes sense. Trump and Sarah Huckabee Sanders would rather focus on the return of the remains, believed to be of U.S. service members from the Korean War. First, I hope they are Americans who were left behind, but I won't be convinced until we have some kind of confirmation. I don't know how they do that. Second, and maybe this is because I'm not in the military, I know my uncle is a former Navy guy, and this is a very important issue to him. But I'm more concerned with those that could die in the future from these missiles than I am with those who died in the Korean War. I mean, I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody who had any relatives who may still have been over there. But the fact that he can praise him for bringing these bones home however many years after the war or the conflict ended, but really just turn a blind eye to the continual building of these missiles, it just baffles me.
Yeah, it's the idea of look here while I build the missiles over there. It's the old bait and switch routine.
And we're falling for it, so why should he stop doing it if we're going to keep going along with it? It just shows that Trump's announcement, like everything he does, is really very premature. I mean, it's no different than President Bush saying mission accomplished when it really wasn't. The U.S. intelligence agencies that have analyzed these satellite images believe North Korea is building 1 or 2 intercontinental ballistic missiles, and this is at the same site that produced previous ICBMs that can hit America. And, it's fine for us. We're on the East Coast, but if you're like in L.A. or you're in Hawaii or you're in Alaska or you're in Japan, you're in South Korea, you've got something to worry about. I mean, you see Kellyanne Conway say it's a process. Things don't change overnight. I wonder what her husband has to say about that, since he posts on Twitter constantly anti-Trump things. What an interesting household that must be.
You could put her logic to test on the Miller investigation, right? Things don't change overnight.
Yeah, no. It's totally different. It's totally. By the way, I'm very upset that Ivanka's clothing line is shut down. We know. How much
speaking of her, not to change the subject, but did you see how she was all upset about the separating of families at the border?
Well, Crimea River, why don't you stop crying about it and why don't you do something?
Do something? Yeah, you have your daddy's ear.
Yeah.
You're one of the few people he listens to.
Yeah. Your father's president. You're a special, I don't even know what the whole role is anymore, special advisor to the president. You could go in there and, we know that he's enamored with her to a certain degree. She can go in there and say what needs to be done, and he'd probably listen to her. But no, she'd rather just whine about it and then probably, blame Democrats or something, or, blame Jared, maybe. Who knows? Oh, she also said that the media is not the enemy, and then Trump came back saying, my daughter said that the media isn't the enemy. Only the fake news media is the enemy, which, he calls everybody fake news that doesn't agree with him, so. Mm-hmm. All right, what do we have for Kevin's Corner this week?
Well, Jesse, this week, the President of the United States has urged the Attorney General to end the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. This is not the first time the President has suggested that the investigation should be terminated. He insists that it is a witch hunt, a waste of time, and a waste of taxpayer money. The President continually goes out of his way to discredit the process of the investigation and the character of those tasked with carrying out the process, determining the extent to which our free election may have been tampered with. We must ask ourselves why the President acts this way. If a guilty man has nothing to hide, why waste time trying to stop the process? Let it play out. It will surely be vindicating, or it will not. Before we give in and believe that the investigation is slow and fruitless, let us remember that justice takes time, that Watergate took 2 full years to play out, and that 30 indictments have already been handed down. The wheels are turning, and this investigation has teeth. If not, the President wouldn't be trying so hard to stop it.
Makes sense to me. Very well said, Kevin. Well, I want to thank all of our listeners for sticking with us. I know we've had a kind of an erratic schedule here for the last week or so, and it won't be changing in the next week. Kevin, you're about to go on vacation tomorrow. I'm jealous of you. Where are you going?
We're going to the birthplace of America, Philadelphia, PA.
Oh, I'm not the birthplace of civilization, Mesopotamia. That'll be fun. We've spent a couple of weekends ourselves in Philadelphia and had a good time. When you get back here, we'll do another episode. So if we don't have another episode, since you would like to listen to this at least on Saturday, if not after, we probably won't have a new episode this week, but the following week we'll be back hopefully with our normal schedule, and we'll get some episodes in before you have to go back to school.
Yeah, back to work, back to the old grind. Got a couple weeks left. Gonna enjoy them. Actually, it's a little easier to get these podcasts produced on a weekly basis when I'm in school because I'm on my routine. You take me into the summer and I get a lot of sorts.
Too much golf, right?
Yeah, too much golf, too much family time. So
well, I'll try to take another day off of work before you go back, play one more game of golf maybe.
Sounds good.
Well, all right, then. Remember, go to our website at grabthembythepod.com for lots of wonderful goodies. You can follow us on Twitter at grabbythepod. Grab Them by the Pod apparently was too long, so we had to shorten it up a bit. Please feel free to send us an email. Go to our website, and there's a place there you can send us an email. If you have questions, we'd be happy to answer them on the air. And you can always go to our Patreon page. If you give enough money, you can pick a topic for Kevin and I to argue. Pick who you want to take each side. And please don't have it be anything horrible like, are you pro or anti-racism? That would not be good.
Listen, if you give enough money, we could quit our real jobs and you'd have an episode every day.
Yeah, piece of cake, man. I mean, heck, just we have one guy who gives us $1 a month, and I really appreciate him. And of course, I can't remember his name right now. We did give him a shout before. I'll make sure next episode to give him a shout out again.
That'd be a good idea.
It means a lot to us, and especially because he was a conservative and he listened to us because he liked our points of view at least. So. All right, it's enough babbling for one episode. It's the witching hour. It's officially Saturday, so let's get this wrapped up, and we will talk to all of you guys next time.
Later.